I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater.
Let's get something out of the way first. The title of this one bugs me. Yes, we have a deadly creature below, and it's almost incidental to the story.
Admiral, test missile on course.
What's your position right now?
Headed downrange, just crossing the Grand Bahamas.
We're also test firing a missile and doing something with some kind of remote guidance system, and that's incidental too.
Trying to make it now.
The story is about these guys. Speaking of the Grand Bahamas, they just escaped from the prison there. We watched them climb up a tree that reaches over the electric fence. No, I don't know why whoever built the fence left the tree there, but these guys know what to do with it. Was that really necessary? No, but as we get their backgrounds, we'll learn that these guys are just plain mean.
Admiral, compare the final figures on last night's test launch.
Oh, good. With the new equipment, we should be able to cut 20 minutes off that time.
This should be a perfect area to plant it. Clear water, smooth bottom, plenty of depth.
All right, let's get on with it. Jackie?
All ready, sir.
All right, get the new device aboard the flying sub. If this dive checks out all right, we should be able to plant it on the bottom before dark.
They'll tell us what they're doing there kind of piecemeal, but it has something to do with a new missile guidance system that sits on the bottom of the ocean, I think. The Admiral and Sharky are going down in the diving bell to check out the bottom and make sure it's there.
Mr. Morton, I was supposed to take this to the skipper.
You'll find him up forward in the flying subhatch. And be careful with that guidance device. Cost over $1.5 million.
This, sir?
So don't drop it.
I have a feeling Riley didn't want to know that. I can't blame him. Let's check in on the bell.
You're 2,000 feet from the bottom, Admiral. What's it like down there?
Good so far. Water's clear. There's nothing to obstruct the beam.
We've already loaded the device into the flying sub.
Fine. If the bottom's solid, I'll plant it as soon as I get up.
For the next generation diving bell, they should add mechanical arms. If Admiral Nelson had some, he could plant the thing from here and save wear and tear on the flying sub. That statement also raises the question, how deep can the flying sub go?
Hey, Admiral, what's this thing you're putting down here with the flying sub?
Well, that's a miniaturized guidance or destruct mechanism that'll allow us to fire retaliatory rockets without a programmed target.
In other words, it lets you fly a missile manually, because what could go wrong with that? The Cold War inspired all kinds of scary ideas like this, but thankfully the overwhelming majority never got any further than a drawing board. The plan is to stick this prototype down there and then test it with some dummy missiles from the Seaview. Elsewhere, we watch those two escapees hop into a small rowboat and get away.
Mr. Morton, sir.
Sort of. Now, we have a few logistical questions here. There has never been a prison on Grand Bahama. The only prison ever recorded in the Bahamas is in Nassau. You'll notice that there are little pieces of land all around Nassau, so whichever way they drifted, they should have run into something. We don't know exactly where the Seaview is, but Mr. Morton or one of them will say they're at least 100 miles from the nearest land. That means either these guys are the worst navigators ever, or they really could have used a motor. In light of this emergency, they pull the diving bell up and pull those two guys in. In the bell, Admiral Nelson has been shooting movie film of the fish, but suddenly they all scatter as if something scared them away. We might have guessed that it'd be our old friend. Just to prove I've never had an original thought in my life, I'm going to call him Fluffy. He's an original Irwin Allen creation, and Irwin got a lot of mileage out of him. And even though they're right next to him, Nelson and Sharky can't see him through their portholes. They won't have time to figure it out, though, because suddenly up they go, leaving poor Fluffy all alone again.
Well, how's he, Doc?
But not bad, considering. How long were you out there?
Week? 2 weeks? How long?
A long time, I don't know. Where's Dobbs?
You shouldn't be on your feet.
Leave me alone. I'm all right, Doc. I'm right here, pal. Right here. Everything's okay.
Dobbs is Nehemiah Persoff, whom we know so well I quit trying to count how many times we've seen him. I've talked about him elsewhere, but I can't remember where, so you'll just have to look up all his credits, find the ones we've already done, and watch them all. But please finish this one first.
Dobbs is the name, Francis J. Dobbs.
Nelson.
This is my business associate, Joe Hawkins. Thanks for fishing us up. They really saved our skin, didn't they?
Yeah, thanks. How did you get so far out into the ocean?
That's what we'd like to know.
He tries to say they drifted from Miami, but nobody's buying that. Hawkins is pretty quiet. Dobbs does most of the talking. Paul Comey said that as far as his looks, he wasn't that interesting. But the fact is, TV loved him. We saw him in Hard Time on Planet Earth, Voyagers, The Time Tunnel, and even though he wasn't credited that time, we saw him right here last season. He did a few movies, but television was his home. As I was scrolling through his credits, I just kept muttering, look at this guy, look at this guy. From 1958 to 1995, he never lacked for work. We'll see why today.
Well, I'm going to the Grand Bahamas tonight in the flying sub. I'll take you with me. The governor's a friend of mine. He'll arrange for your transportation to the mainland. Get him some dry clothes and something to eat.
Yes, sir.
Bahamas, the governor. We're heading right back where we came from.
Not on your life. We're going to Brazil. They got no extradition laws there.
From Grand Bahama, you're looking at over 6,000 kilometers to, say, Rio, and that's flying. By rowboat, are we sure that was a prison and not an insane asylum? But that's not important right now. What is important is Dobbs is planning to take over the boat. Admiral Nelson wants to take the diving bell down again while they still have some daylight, even though daylight doesn't penetrate the water to 4,000 feet, so I'm not sure why it matters. Without some floodlights, he's seeing nothing that far down. Anyway, our two castaways have decided to watch how the diving bell works.
Hiya. Sorry, gentlemen, this room's off limits.
Oh? We hear that the Admiral is going down to the bottom of the sea in that thing. We just want to watch.
Come on, Captain. We won't get in anybody's hair.
Stand by to launch bell. Now hold it right here.
There's a diagram of the boat on the wall behind them. They'll get caught studying it too, even though it's supposed to be classified. Kowalski is convinced these guys are shady, but nobody's listening to him.
Is this small cable all that's holding up that diving bell?
That's all.
If it breaks, then that's curtains for the Admiral.
It won't break. It's strong enough to hold 10 diving bells. 1,500 feet, Captain.
Captain Crane didn't want these two in here, but the Admiral okayed it. And now nobody's watching them.
Check, Lee. All systems normal.
When I give you the nod, make a big thing about nosing around those missile tubes. Hey, I want to give him something to keep him busy here while we make our way to the flying sub.
Notice what that sign said: do not oil the clutch control.
Hey, Captain, I bet these are them nuclear missiles I heard so
Get
much
away
about.
from there.
Shut that detector door.
Suddenly the bell is dropping too fast, out of control. Leaning on the brake handle is just creating smoke.
Watch it slipping. Close, pressure. 200 inches blaster. We have to equalize it. Open the main valves all the way. Go on, give me a hand.
Even the toughest diving bell can't handle huge pressure changes all at once. Nelson and Sharkey will get the interior pressure just about equalized, but after that they're both knocked unconscious. That means even though they're practically dropping into his arms, they still haven't seen Fluffy. Eventually the crew manages to stop the free fall and bring them back up. That's twice they've dangled this thing in front of Fluffy and then yanked it away. The way he moves, I think he's part cat. He keeps going like this. When you have strangers running around the boat and a room full of guns, shouldn't you at least lock the door? Dobbs takes over the bridge and says, "Open the way to the flying sub for us." Does he know how to operate it? Someone hits the alarm while the captain and Kowalski are discovering the sabotage. They brought trouble on board.
Come on, quit stalling. Come on.
Hawkins has what appears to be a through-and-through wound in his calf, sort of like what Virgil Earp got at the OK Corral. Dobbs has to do something, quick. It won't close all the way, probably thanks to bullet damage somewhere, but it's enough. While the crew deals with those burning panels, our fugitives get to the flying sub.
Ballast controls out, Lee. Tanks are flooding. We're headed for the bottom.
I included that snippet of Fluffy because it's meaningless, and we do it a lot. We're trying to imply that the Seaview is headed for him, but the fact is that for 75% of the episode, he doesn't get to do anything but stand there and growl. We keep cutting to him, but he's not doing anything. There's also some inconsistency about how deep he is. When the diving bell was hanging in front of him, they were at about 3,000 feet. But later, we'll run into him at 5,000 feet, and at any depth, he still stands there and growls. I don't know for sure, but I think maybe he's hungry. Captain Crane manages to steer the Seaview onto a ledge and set it down so there they can make repairs. That also means our two friends have the flying sub, but they can't go anywhere because we're sitting on the door. They know it too, so they've slipped out to find a better place to hide.
They're not in here. Get a search party. Find them. Fast. Come on.
Hawkins is in serious pain. He says, I need a doctor.
Needs a doc. You're nuts.
Listen, if this was you, I'd try to help you. I would.
Sure, you'd help. What would you do?
I'd try to find a doc.
What would you do? Pick up the phone and call sick bay? Forget it.
No, he'd do the smart thing and surrender so you could get treated.
You make me sick.
Remember, Hawkins, this is your best friend, pals through thick and thin, right? They can't stay there long. The crew is searching the boat. Next stop, the air vents.
That should just about do it. The bullets hit the automatic pressure regulator in the main ballast tanks. The valves opened so fast, the sudden increase of pressure may have weakened them.
Now, we'll take it easy until we can be sure.
Good. Now, what about Dobbs and Hawkins?
The search party's still combing the ship. In the meantime, I checked them out with the FBI. They've got quite a record.
Robbery, kidnapping, murder.
Plus the guard they killed during their escape.
Pass the word to all hands. Don't take any chances with these two. Shoot first.
Meanwhile, those valves the Admiral mentioned are a problem. Their ballast tanks were weakened by a sudden gush of pressure, and it's getting worse.
Pressure's still too high. We've got to bleed off the air. Can we free the main vent control manually?
We can make a mighty good try at it, sir.
I'll ask for a volunteer to go into the tank.
You already have one, Captain.
Captain Crane says Sharky is too important, but Sharky says that's why I have to go. I'm the only one who knows those valves inside and out. He puts on some scuba gear and heads in.
All right, Kowalski. Keep your eye peeled on that gauge. If the pressure goes over 200 psi, you sing out.
Your scuba rig won't function much above 220 psi. You want to cut it that close?
I don't want it, but I'm gonna. All right, let's get going.
This gets a little technical, but that tank probably has at least 2,000 psi of air in it. If you tried to breathe directly off that, your lungs would explode. A scuba regulator cuts that pressure down to a comfortable level that's easy to breathe from. 220 is pretty high. Most regulators are set around the 120 to 140 range. But he's going into some high pressure, and he's going to need that extra push for the air to be able to get to him. The other issue he's going to be facing is oxygen toxicity. If the air you're breathing has a certain percentage of oxygen and you're under high pressure, the oxygen itself will kill you. Despite that and the pressure going over 200, Sharky gets the valve loose using a blowtorch.
Sharky, pressure's over 222. You better get out of there. Chief? Chief, can you hear me? Chief!
This is an educated guess based on the sound he's making and the way he's moving. I'm going to say the pressure has overpowered his regulator and he's having trouble getting a breath. If it was oxygen toxicity, he'd be having spasms and he probably wouldn't be able to scoot like that. It hits the central nervous system, and even if you survive, it can cause permanent damage. But that won't happen to the chief. He's so tough, if it did hit his central nervous system, it'd turn him into Captain America.
Captain. Pass completed, sir.
Good work, Chief. Prepare the surface.
Aye, aye.
Lowest pressure. Below main tanks.
Aw, Fluffy's waving bye-bye. Hey, Irwin built the bloomin' thing and stuck a guy in it. He's gonna get all the mileage he can out of both of them. Some things are tentative, but the Seaview should hold together enough to get them to the surface. While the crew were concerning themselves with not being stuck on the bottom forever, our two bad guys have actually made their way into the flying sub.
Hey, this
This don't look like any plane we've ever flown before.
Don't worry. All planes are the same.
Yeah, all planes can go underwater and back out again. Everybody knows that.
First thing we do. Now. Oh, here's a checklist. Let's just check them off.
Admiral Nelson and Captain Crane are busy trying to make sure the boat doesn't go up too fast and burst that weakened ballast tank.
It's a flying sub.
Yes, with that checklist, Dobbs was able to launch the flying sub successfully. There's just one problem.
Dobbs and Hawkins.
They'll kill themselves. I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the guidance device.
How well did you tie it down when you stowed it, Captain?
Sparks, put me through to the flying sub.
Aye, sir.
He's trying to fly it like a plane.
And failing. The checklist only told him how to launch it, not how to fly it. What he's doing isn't working because down here it's not a plane, it's a sub. Hence the name, flying when it's in the air, sub when it's in the water. Pay attention, Dobbs, there will be a test later.
Dobbs, let up on your left rudder.
He's going to teach me to fly.
You're slipping out of control. Hard right.
Do as he says!
Shut up, I'm trying.
Ease up on the...
I see why Dobbs was in prison. He's a walking temper tantrum. Kind of like you.
Power's off. The controls are locked. I can't move them.
We're gonna crash.
No, you're not. Someone is going to save you.
What is it?
It's Fluffy. He'll keep you from crashing. See? He'll wrap you up in a nice big hug and keep you safe. Fluffy is a nice guy. Suddenly, Dobbs wants the radio on again. He bellows the situation to Nelson.
Let's go, Lee.
We'll be going below our crush depth. That's taking too much of a chance with our weakened ballast tanks.
Got to get that guidance device. It's the prototype. There are no others.
And somebody lost the plan, so we can never build another one. Really, Admiral? But down they go to meet Fluffy.
All stop.
All stop.
See anything like it?
It's playing with a flying sub as if it were a toy.
You think you could kill it with a laser beam without hitting the flying sub?
I think so.
By the way, the Seaview has a laser. It was an upgrade they got when they passed 400,000 XP.
Laser. Fire.
Admiral Nelson asked if they could kill it with the laser. Take that as a no. Can they make it angry with the laser? Oh yeah. But for now, we get to watch a really cool sequence of the Seaview recovering the flying sub from the bottom. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. The model work in this series is some of the best you'll ever see. Once they make sure they're out of Fluffy's reach, they're ready to start inching their way back up.
We're clear of it.
Ballast tank. Main tank's exploded. Flip it.
4,800 feet and dropping.
I guess an inch was too much. The deeper they fall, the harder it is to operate the controls. The water pressure against the planes is more than their motors can handle. With no ballast tank to pump air into, they can't get buoyant unless they lose a lot of weight fast.
If we jettison the torpedoes and the missiles, we should just about be able to make it.
I'll get to work on the torpedoes. You can down to the missile room as soon as you can.
Aye, sir. Admiral.
Yes?
What about Dobbs and Hawkins? They're in the flying sub and they're armed.
Put a guard on the hatch and keep them there for the time being.
Since neither Dobbs nor Hawkins is inclined to try taking it out again, it makes a convenient sell. He has Kowalski stand guard over the hatch. Sharkey finishes closing the blast door manually, shutting Kowalski in there by himself.
All right. Hold it right there. Now pass out your guns. Butt first.
Oh, sure. They're no use to us here.
Which means nobody heard that. They head up the stairs and make their way to the missile room.
Don't anybody move and nobody gets hurt. We're getting out of here.
All right. Everybody against that wall.
Put those guns away. There's no way to get out.
If we have to do it over dead bodies, we will.
He thinks they're going to use the escape hatch. He thinks they're going to put on inflatable vests, get in there, and get blown to the surface. I have news for him. At this depth, they'll get in there and get crushed into used bubble gum.
Can't go out there. The pressure will kill you.
You expect me to swallow that stuff? Come on.
Hey, Dobbs, what if he's telling the truth?
We do what I say, dummy. He's lying. I'm not lying, Hawkins. You wouldn't last 30 seconds.
Listen, maybe we should wait. Maybe...
Hawkins, you stupid gutless!
Guys like Nelson don't know when to leave well enough alone. They were about to work it out themselves, and he would have had less mess to clean up.
Get away from it! Get away from it! I can't! Get away!
I'm pretty sure the 1966 censors would have flipped their toupees if Irwin had tried to show what happened to Dobbs. And it's just as well because the Seaview has its own problems. Remember when I said I thought Fluffy looked hungry? I was wrong. He's lonely. He just wants someone to cuddle with. They only have one chance, that second missile they were supposed to test. Oh, you can hear him crying, "Please come back. I haven't had a friend in 236 years. Unfortunately for Fluffy, the missile went right into him and is now sitting at his feet. Or whatever they used to be. The push is enough to help them get an upward angle and make it to the surface. Since he was 98% seaweed, Fluffy survived the explosion and was able to nourish himself back to health when he found little bits of what looked like bubblegum everywhere. He said it tasted a lot like a hug.
I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater.
And that sort of. Now, okay, sort of. Okay. 5% of the he doesn't, come on, David! Say words, geez.